And as you might have guessed, Republicans are again screaming and crying about election fraud. It's weird how it's only fraud when they lose, right? I mean, what are the chances? This was not a good night for the president. Everything he touched was a loser. Trump hasn't been this embarrassed since he found out there was a Donald Trump Jr. But don't worry. If you're tired of all the losing, fear not, he's got an excuse. In fact, he's got two of them. He wrote, Trump wasn't on the ballot and shutdown were the two reasons that Republicans lost elections tonight. Now, if Republicans had won and he wasn't on the ballot, would he take credit for that? Oh, yes, he definitely would, but he lost. And then he posted this. He posted, and so it begins, which was either a response to Mamdani winning the mayoral race or he just sat down on the toilet. I don't know.
Sit in my room. Trump is toast.
I like that one. Trump is toast. Yeah, man.
And so you just kind of digest the news of the day.
It's an affirmation.
I'm glad some good is coming out of this stuff. This is Robert Mueller.
Robert Mueller putting the squeeze on the president. Just to relieve the stress. You know what I mean?
Dan Bongino, the deputy FBI director, has suddenly quit right before the Epstein files are supposed to drop. We believe the Trump DOJ and FBI will be obstructing a lot of the documents that mention Donald Trump from being released. But Dan Bongino, after denying all of the reports that he would be quitting, has now admitted that he is quitting. And Donald Trump essentially mocking Bongino right now, saying, I think Bongino's going back to his show. Let's take a look at what Bongino just posted.
Sometimes the most dangerous weapon against a tyrant isn't a sword or a gun. It's a paintbrush and a microphone. And when one of the greatest comedic actors of our generation sat down with one of the most fearless late-night hosts in America, they didn't just criticize Donald Trump. They systematically dismantled everything he represented, using art, humor, and unflinching honesty as their weapons. What happened when Jim Carrey appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live in September 2018 wasn't just an interview. It was a declaration of war against authoritarianism.
It's hard to understand what's going on. I mean, I really, one minute you feel like, oh my gosh, this is going to be, now the landslide's going to start. And then there'll be some other weaselly little, sidestep they do or whatever it is. And, this administration is a rabid dog, and it's turning us upside down. And all, as far as I'm concerned, it's as obvious as the nose on your face.
Look at this. The Biden FBI placed 274 agents into the crowd on January 6th. If this is so, which it is, a lot of very good people will be owed big apologies. What a scam. Do something, President DJT. Joe Biden planting 274 FBI agents in the crowd is diabolical, especially considering the fact he somehow did this 2 weeks before becoming president. For a brain-dead vegetable, he couldn't even sign his own name. Somehow Joe Biden was able to get a lot of stuff done. It's amazing.
Bongino writes, I will be leaving my position with the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, AG Bondi, and Director Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you, my fellow Americans, for the privilege to serve you. God bless America and all those who defend her. American flag. And just take a look right here at the time sequence of this. At 12:55 p.m.,
wrapped in comedy and delivered with the kind of passion that only comes from artists who refuse to stay silent while democracy burns. Before we dive into how these two comedy legends tag team Trump into oblivion, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're covering the stories of resistance that mainstream media won't touch, and we need your support to keep holding power accountable. Let's get into it. September 6, 2018, Jimmy Kimmel Live. Jim Carrey walks onto the set after a comedy sketch where he disrupted Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court confirmation hearing on a scooter, and immediately the conversation turned serious.
He showed the common man being fed through gears of the brutal, dehumanizing industrial age. He took on the American right wing of his day, its worst evils: hatred of immigrants, contempt for the truth, greed, and the abuse of power. We are fighting those same evils today.
What is that supposed to mean? What would motivate him to post "and so it begins" at almost midnight? What would compel him to contact his social media guy, Dan Scavino, that late at night to say, Dan, I need you to post "and so it begins"? all caps, Mr. President. Yeah, all caps, you idiot. And put a ... in front of it, too. No wonder Dan Scavino looks like this. I mean, the man's face is all caps.
Bongino told MS Now, in great reporting from Carol Lenning, those at the Post and those at MS Now. Bongino tells MS Now when he was asked for comment on the story, saying he was leaving his position in January, Bongino said, quote, "Print whatever you'd like. No one believes you anyway." Then at 5:16 p.m., Bongino on X, "I will be leaving my position in January." We're hearing from Donald Trump what he had to say about Bongino, and he says, "I think Bongino really wants to focus on..."
Because while Carrey is known for making people laugh, what he'd been doing for the previous year and a half was something completely different. He'd been creating political artwork, brutal, unflinching cartoons that depicted Donald Trump as everything from a grotesque monster to a screaming infant, and Kimmel wanted to know why. "This whole thing has brought back my 8-year-old self," Carrey told Kimmel. "It's been a gift from God." He explained that he'd been drawing political cartoons since he was a kid in grade school, creating wild drawings of his teacher getting attacked with missiles and axes.
Yesterday, Trump had what was easily the most presidential day of his life. He was front and center on the world stage signing a ceasefire in the Middle East, and then he got home, he started going through the internet, and he just couldn't help himself. Trump made the cover of Time magazine, which he usually loves. You know, before he was president, he had fake Time magazine covers hanging on the walls of his golf club, for real. But this one, I guess, conjured up some mixed feelings because of the photo they used. It's upset him so much that at 1:36 a.m. he posted, "Time magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time."
You know, and covering for this president is like putting makeup on a melanoma. You know, not only unsightly, but it's dangerous. I'd see that everybody's a hypocrite because everybody's imagined themselves standing there with his head. You know what I mean? I mean, maybe at least half the country.
His show, and that's really what his priority is. Here, play this clip.
Oh, Dan did a great job. I think he wants to go back to his show. Yeah, I think.
As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, writes, Bongino couldn't handle the pressure. Now he runs back to yelling conspiracies he knows aren't true into a microphone for cash to dumb down Neanderthals. And
his teacher, Mrs. Gervais, had saved all those drawings and sent them back to him years later after he became famous. "She saw the divine spark, Jimmy," Carrey joked. But the conversation quickly moved from childhood nostalgia to present-day urgency. Carrey's Twitter feed at the time was populated with politically charged artwork, Colin Kaepernick on a bended knee, portraits of the late Senator John McCain, and most prominently, brutal depictions of Donald Trump. One particularly striking piece showed Trump shirtless in a blue bathrobe, eating ice cream while rubbing an exposed nipple, his mouth agape and screaming.
I was not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein, and you watched people yesterday saying that I threw him out of a club. I didn't want anything to do with him. That was many, many years ago. It shows you one thing, that I have good taste, okay? Now, other people, they went all over with him. They went to his island. They went all over the place. He was very well known in Palm Beach. His island, whatever his island was, wherever it is, I was never there. Find out the people that went to the island. But Jeffrey Epstein was not somebody that I respected. I threw him out. In fact, I think the great James Patterson, who's a member of Mar-a-Lago, made a statement yesterday that many years ago I threw him out. I'm not a fan of Jeffrey Epstein.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, I want you to know sometimes when I watch you striding across the White House lawn so confidently, with so much masculinity, I'll admit it, I get sexually aroused. Thank you for breathing life back into my once slumbering penis.
That was very well stated, listen.
by the way, while all of this is happening as well, we learned that Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice and former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex trafficker, she just filed a habeas corpus petition challenging her federal sex trafficking convictions. She's not represented by any attorney, but the reason, to be clear, why she's filing this.
Carrey had submitted it to the Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery as Trump's official presidential portrait, titling it, "You Scream, I Scream, Will We Ever Stop Screaming?" Kimmel asked Carrey why he felt compelled to create these images. And Carrey's answer cut through all the usual celebrity platitudes about making a difference or using my platform. He said something much more honest and much more terrifying. It's not a choice to be doing the cartoons. I'm doing them because I can't just watch this nightmare unfold. Think about that for a second. Jim Carrey, a man who made millions of dollars making people laugh.
We have a president who started out when the country was together and had a wonderful leader, and he is tearing us limb from limb.
Well,
destroying every institution.
Let's talk about this Donald Trump, even though we don't want to. Let's bring in on the panel for this.
He's a car salesman. He's a used
con
car
man,
salesman.
absolutely.
And he's, you know, he didn't make America great again, but he did turn back the odometer. So who knows what the hell is wrong with us?
If those three judges he appointed to the Supreme Court take this case and rule against him, he is going to blow a whale-sized windmill out of his. I mean, it might actually.
Is that now she wants to claim this is why I have to invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, and why I was willing to speak with Donald Trump's former criminal defense attorney number 2 at the Department of Justice, Todd Blanche, but I'm not going to answer any questions for the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. I'm going to say I have a habeas corpus petition to be released pending, so I can incriminate myself. Do you see how this cover-up is shaping up right now? I want to remind you right here that Bongino seemed tormented from the outset. By the way, on day one of Bongino's job, and great reporting here by the folks at Bloomberg,
who could easily have stayed silent and protected his wealth and comfort, was saying he had no choice but to fight back. Not because it was good for his career, not because it would make him popular, but because watching Trump destroy America was unbearable, and staying silent would have been a betrayal of everything he believed in. And Carrey didn't hold back when describing what Trump represented. In that same 2018 timeframe, speaking to TV journalists, Carrey explained his mission. "I just assumed that a radicalized America is a threat to us all. When a madman grabs the wheel of the bus loaded with innocent passengers and threatens to drive it off a cliff, it tends to steal everyone's focus."
Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, telling an American company, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead, in addition to being a direct violation of the First Amendment, is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso. Although, I don't know, if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that, you have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan Carr is the most embarrassing car Republicans have embraced since this one. And that's saying something.
You know, we're in a tough spot. It's a very, very divided world, and those on I guess you'd call it the left side. I just call it the sensible side. Is, we're sitting there watching this nonsense happen, and people come out and talk about it like we're kindergartners.
Bongino got his hands on the Epstein files, and they were sent to him. The redaction team, welcome to the FBI, Bongino. The redaction team sent Bongino the files, and you see him receiving it that day in March. We also know with the corresponding billing entries that in 1 week alone, when Bongino got there was like $1 million paid in overtime to FBI agents. Over 1,000 FBI agents and DOJ lawyers and employees were assigned to this redaction team. We're working on aggregating the Epstein files back in March. And we know that Donald Trump's name is all over them. Heck, even Susie Wild, Donald Trump's chief of staff, I was going to say former chief of staff, because it seems like a lot more news is about to drop, don't it? She said Donald Trump's all over the files. That's what she told Vanity Fair. But she said, look,
But Carrey saved his most devastating critique of Trump for his appearance on Bill Maher's Real Time, which aired around the same time as his Kimmel appearance. Sitting on Maher's panel, Carrey delivered a line so perfectly crafted that it's been resurfacing on social media for years, going viral every time people rediscover it. "We have a president who started when our country was together, and we had a wonderful leader," Carrey said, referring to the transition from Obama to Trump, "and he is tearing us limb from limb, destroying every institution that was special to us." Then Maher asked Carrey to describe Trump's character more directly, and Carrey's response brought the house down.
It is frightening to know that the President of the United States is being briefed on world events by the same source as everyone at the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport Chili's to go. One thing you could say about Donald Trump, though, he has a vivid imagination. He has created a dangerous organization to get the old people excited and fired up, a supervillain called Antifa. And the reason we know Antifa is organized against the government is because their matching signs indicate they are somehow in league with Kinko's.
You're seeing people out there with thousands of signs that all match, pre-bought, pre-put together. They're organized and someone is funding it. We're going to get to the funding of Antifa. We're going to get to the root of Antifa, and we are going to find and charge all of those people who are causing this chaos in Portland and all these other cities across our country.
Yeah, and if we can't find them, we're going to pretend we did. Is that a gang sign? Have you,
Oh, like you don't know what it is.
I have no idea.
You don't know. Jimmy Fallon doesn't know. David Letterman doesn't know.
We don't know.
All the comics and show business don't know what this is. Right?
He and Epstein were just playboys. They were much younger, and they were just gallivanting around town doing what playboys do. What? That's what you call it, Susie Wiles? But then you remember all of these appearances by Bongino on state regime media, which calls itself Fox. He couldn't handle it. He was like, I gave up everything for this. Me and my wife are struggling. This job is so hard. Here, play this clip.
I mean, I gave up everything for this. I mean, you know, my wife is struggling. I'm not a victim. I'm not Jim Comey. It's fine. I did this and I'm proud I did it. But if you think we're there for tea and crumpets, well, I mean, Cash is there all day.
He's a car salesman. He's a used car salesman. He didn't make America great again, but he did turn back the odometer. The audience erupted because that one line captured everything about Trump's con. He didn't actually improve anything. He just lied about the mileage, covered up the damage, and convinced half the country they were getting a good deal on a lemon. It was brilliant, devastating, and absolutely true. For 4 years, from 2017 when Trump took office until 2021 when Biden was inaugurated, Jim Carrey waged a relentless artistic war against Trump. He created hundreds of political cartoons, each one more brutal than the last.
I have to feel sorry for the people who work for him, who try to clean up the messes. They've been bending over backwards to say, oh, he never threatened. J.D. Vance today made the claim that what the FCC chairman said was a joke, which, I don't know, maybe that was a joke? I don't know. They go to all these lengths to say, oh, it wasn't coercion, the president was just musing. And then the second Trump is alone, he sits on the toilet, he gets his grubby little thumbs on his phone, and he immediately blows their excuses to smithereens and says, it was ratings that got me fired. Has anyone ever been fired for bad ratings on a Wednesday?
Working, not working.
Oh, yeah, all right.
And he would spread all of the Epstein, hey, you know, the FBI's covering it up, the DOJ's covering it up. He would say, you know, the Epstein was never suicide, and Epstein was, you know, he was the one saying all of these things and pushing all of the Epstein stuff, and that the FBI needs to release it immediately. Then he was involved in the cover-up. So watch as Maria Bartiromo from State Regime Media, which calls itself Fox, ask a very basic question to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Here, play this clip.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it. Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
Share this video with everyone who needs to hear it, because the fight isn't over. Trump is back in power. The threats to free speech are real, and we need more artists like Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel who are willing to risk everything to tell the truth. Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel didn't just destroy Trump on live TV. They declared that comedy, art, and free speech will always be more powerful than any tyrant who tries to silence them. And that's a message worth fighting for.